I didn't think of it as cheating at first. That's the part that still messes with me when I replay everything in my head. If you'd asked me back then, really pressed me on it, I would have told you without hesitation that I wasn't doing anything wrong. Not technically, not in the way people usually mean. I was still going home every night, still sleeping in the same bed as my wife, still showing up to work, paying bills, texting her during the day like everything was normal. And that's exactly what made it so dangerous. Because nothing about it felt like a clean break. It wasn't a line I stepped over in one moment. It was something I drifted into so slowly that by the time I realized where I was, I couldn't even tell you when it started. My name's Ryan. I'm 34, live in a suburb outside Denver, work in commercial real estate. My wife, Megan, is 32. We've been married 5 years, no kids. Not because we didn't want them. We just kept saying maybe next year, until suddenly it had been 5 years. From the outside, we looked solid. That kind of couple people assume is stable without thinking too hard about it. We didn't fight in public. We hosted friends a couple times a year. We took decent vacations, posted the occasional smiling photo like everyone else. But inside the house, things had gone quiet. Not bad, not explosive, just quiet in a way that felt heavier every month. We stopped asking each other real questions. Conversations turned into logistics. Did you pay that bill? What do you want for dinner? I'll be home late. Stuff that keeps life moving but doesn't actually connect you to the person you're living with. And the weird part is, there wasn't some big event that caused it. No betrayal, no blowout fight. It just faded. I remember one night, maybe 6 months before everything went sideways, we were sitting on the couch, both on our phones, the TV on, but neither of us watching it. And I had this thought out of nowhere. If I got up and left right now, how long would it take her to notice? That thought should have scared me. Instead, it just sat there. That's the kind of space I was in when I met her. Her name was Lauren. It happened at a bar I didn't usually go to, one of those places downtown with dim lighting, exposed brick, overpriced cocktails, the kind of spot you end up in when a coworker insists on just one drink after work and you don't feel like going home yet. That night, it was Jason from my office dragging me out. He just closed a deal and wanted to celebrate. I almost said no. I should have said no. But I went. We were standing at the bar, halfway through our second drink, when I noticed her sitting a few stools down. She wasn't trying to get attention, which is probably why I noticed her. No loud laugh, no obvious signals. Just sitting there, stirring her drink like she was in her own world. There was something about that pulled my attention. I didn't say anything at first. I just noticed. Jason was talking about work, something about a client, but I wasn't really listening. My focus kept drifting. Eventually, she glanced over. Just a quick look, nothing dramatic, but our eyes met for a second longer than they should have, and then she looked away. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. A few minutes later, Jason got pulled into a conversation with someone he knew, and suddenly I was just standing there, half turned toward her without really meaning to be. She looked over again. This time I didn't look away. "Is it always this crowded in here?" she asked, just loud enough to be heard over the noise. I smiled slightly. "Honestly, I have no idea. First time here." "Same," she said. That was it. That was the opening. We started talking the way strangers do. Light, easy, no expectations. Where are you from? What do you do? How do you know this place? Normal stuff. Safe stuff. She told me she worked in interior design. Recently moved to the area. Didn't know many people yet. I told her about real estate. Kept it vague. Nothing too deep. At some point, she laughed at something I said. Not in a forced way, but genuinely. And I felt it. That small, almost forgotten feeling of someone actually enjoying talking to you. And it hit me harder than it should have. Because I realized I hadn't felt that in a long time. Not with Megan. That flicker of guilt came with a flicker, but it passed quickly. I told myself I was overthinking it. It was just a conversation. People talk. That's not cheating. We ended up sitting at the bar together, Jason completely forgotten. 1 drink turned into 2, then 3. The conversation shifted from small talk into something more personal without either of us really steering it there. She told me about her last relationship, how it ended, how she felt like she'd wasted years with someone who stopped seeing her. I remember that phrase exactly. Stopped seeing her. It stuck in my head because it felt uncomfortably familiar. I didn't say that out loud, but I nodded like I understood. Because I did. "Sometimes I think it's worse than being alone," she said, staring into her drink. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I get that." She looked up at me then, really looked at me for the first time. "You do?" And this is the moment that matters. This is where something shifted. Because I had a choice.
I could have kept it vague, kept it surface level, protected the boundary that should have been there, but I didn't. "I'm married," I said. Her expression changed slightly. Not shocked, not even disappointed, just processing. "Oh," she said. "Yeah," I added, almost like I needed to justify it. "It's complicated." There it was. That word people hide behind when they don't want to say the truth. Complicated. She didn't pull away, didn't shut the conversation down. If anything, she leaned in just slightly. "Complicated how?" she asked. And I should have stopped there. I should have paid my tab, found Jason, gone home, sat on that couch next to my wife, and dealt with whatever was broken in my actual life. But instead, I stayed. And I answered. "Just feels like we're roommates more than anything else," I said. "We don't fight. We just don't really connect anymore." Saying it out loud felt strange, like I was exposing something I hadn't fully admitted even to myself. Lauren nodded slowly. "That's exactly how it was for me," she said, before it ended. There was something about that, about someone else understanding without needing a full explanation, that pulled me in deeper. It didn't feel like crossing a line. It felt like being understood. And that's how it starts. Not with some big, dramatic betrayal. Just two people sitting at a bar, telling each other things they probably shouldn't, because it feels easier than fixing what's actually broken. By the time I left that night, we had exchanged numbers. I told myself it was harmless, just someone to talk to, just a connection, nothing more. I remember sitting in my car before driving home, staring at my phone with her number saved under her name, Lauren. I should have deleted it right then. I didn't. Instead, I drove home, walked into the house, and found Megan exactly where I expected. On the couch, TV on, phone in hand. She glanced up. "Hey, you're late." "Yeah," I said. "Work thing." She nodded, like that was enough. And that was it. No questions, no curiosity.
No tension, just acceptance. I went upstairs, changed, brushed my teeth, got into bed next to her a little later when she came up. We lay there in the dark, not touching, not talking. And for the first time, I noticed the distance in a way that felt sharp. Because now I had something to compare it to. I didn't text Lauren that night, but I thought about it. And the next morning when I woke up before Megan and reached for my phone, her name was the first thing that crossed my mind. That's when I should have known. Whatever this was going to become, it wasn't harmless. I didn't text her right away. That's something I've gone back and forth on in my head more times than I can count. Like maybe if I had just left it alone for a day or two, let the moment fade, it would have died off naturally, like most things do. But it didn't fade. If anything, it got louder. I went through my entire morning routine on autopilot. Shower, coffee, checking emails, half listening to Megan talk about something going on at her job. But underneath all of it, there was this constant awareness sitting just below the surface. Her name was in my phone. Lauren. It sounds stupid when you say it out loud, like it shouldn't matter that much. It's just a contact, just a person I met once. But it didn't feel like just. It felt unfinished, like something had started and paused mid-sentence. By the time I got to the office, I'd already opened our text thread 3 separate times without typing anything, just staring at the blank space, like I was waiting for the right thing to say to appear on its own. It didn't, so I closed it, told myself to focus on work. That lasted maybe an hour. I was sitting at my desk, halfway through reviewing a contract, when my phone buzzed. And I knew. I didn't even need to look at the screen. Still, I picked it up. It was her. "Hey, I know this might be weird, but I had a really good time talking last night." I stared at the message longer than I should have. It wasn't aggressive. It wasn't crossing any obvious line. If anything, it was normal. And that's what made it dangerous, because it gave me permission to respond without feeling like I was doing something wrong. I typed back before I could overthink it. Not weird. I did too. 3 dots appeared almost instantly. So, are we pretending that didn't happen, or... I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. That question was more direct than I expected. And again, I had a choice. I could have ended it right there, kept things clean. Instead, I typed, "I don't think I want to pretend." The second I sent it, I felt something shift. Not guilt, not yet, just momentum. From that point on, it became a daily thing. At first it was light, casual check-ins, a message in the morning, something in the afternoon, a few texts at night. Nothing that would raise alarms if someone saw it. But the tone changed faster than I expected. We skipped past surface level stuff almost immediately. It wasn't long before we were talking about things that felt personal. She told me about her past relationships in more detail. The way she described them, like she'd given everything and gotten less back every time, made me see her in a certain light. Someone who had been overlooked, underappreciated. And without realizing it, I started stepping into that space. The one who listens, the one who gets it. She asked about my marriage more than I probably should have allowed. At first, I kept things vague. It's just been distant lately. Work's been stressful. We're trying to figure things out. But she didn't let it stay vague. What does distant actually look like? She asked one night. I was sitting in my car outside the house when that text came through. Engine off. Just sitting there in the dark, staring at my phone. I should have gone inside. Instead, I stayed. It looks like living with someone and not really knowing how they feel anymore, I typed. Do you still love her? She asked. That one hit harder. I stared at it for a long time, because the answer wasn't simple, and I think that's where everything started slipping even further. I don't know, I wrote. That was the first real crack. Once you say something like that out loud, or type it, it becomes real in a way it wasn't before. And she didn't pull back from it. Yeah, she replied. That's usually where it starts. Where it starts, not where it ends. I knew what she meant, and I didn't stop it. After that, the texting got heavier, more frequent, more personal, more constant. She'd text me first thing in the morning. Good morning, hope today's better than yesterday. And I'd respond before even getting out of bed. I started looking forward to it. That was the part that should have scared me. Not the content of the messages, the dependence on them. I found myself checking my phone more, smiling at things she said, thinking about how to respond in a way that would keep the conversation going. It wasn't physical, but it was something that didn't belong in a marriage. Megan noticed before I realized she had. It was small at first. You've been on your phone a lot lately, she said one night while we were eating dinner. Work stuff, I replied automatically. She nodded, but I could tell she didn't fully buy it. You seem distracted, she added. I've just got a lot going on right now, I said. Not a lie, just not the truth she was asking for. She didn't push it. That was Megan's thing. She didn't push, and I used that. A few days later, Lauren asked if I wanted to meet up again. Just coffee, she said. Public place, no pressure. I knew exactly what that meant. It wasn't just coffee. It was a continuation, a step forward. I sat with that message for a long time, long enough to know that saying yes would change things. And still, yeah, I'd like that, I replied. We met on a Saturday afternoon. I told Megan I had to stop by the office for a bit. She barely questioned it. Okay, she said, don't work too hard. I remember feeling a flicker of something then. Not guilt, something worse, relief. Because it was easy, too easy. The coffee shop was crowded, loud enough to feel anonymous. When I walked in and saw Lauren sitting at a corner table, she smiled in a way that felt familiar, like we'd done this 100 times already. Hey, she said. Hey. I sat down across from her, and for a second, neither of us spoke. Just that quiet moment of recognition. And then it picked up right where it left off. No awkwardness, no hesitation. We talked for almost 2 hours. About everything. About nothing. About things I hadn't talked about with Megan in years. She laughed at my stories, asked questions, paid attention in a way that felt intentional. And I realized something sitting there. I wasn't holding anything back. Not really. I was giving her pieces of myself that I'd stopped offering at home. That's when it stopped being harmless. Not because of anything physical. Because of where my attention was going. Where my energy was going. When we finally stood up to leave, there was this moment. That pause. The kind where something either happens or doesn't. She stepped closer, just slightly. Thanks for meeting me, she said. Yeah, I replied. I'm glad we did. And then she hugged me. It wasn't long, it wasn't inappropriate, but it lingered just enough to mean something. When she pulled away, she looked up at me for a second longer than necessary.
Text me when you get home, she said. I nodded. I will. And I did. The second I got in my car. I made it back, I sent. He didn't waste any time, she replied. I said I would. There was a pause. Then, I like that about you. That line stayed with me longer than it should have, because it wasn't about the text. It was about what it implied. Reliability, attention, presence. Things I hadn't realized were missing until someone else pointed them out without saying it directly. When I got home, Megan was in the kitchen. Hey, she said, you're back earlier than I expected. Yeah, I replied, setting my keys down. Didn't take as long as I thought. She smiled. That's good. She walked over, gave me a quick kiss, then went back to what she was doing. And for a split second, everything felt normal, comfortable, familiar. But underneath that, there was something else now. Something I hadn't brought into this house before. And I knew it, even if I wasn't ready to call it what it was yet. That night, lying in bed next to Megan, I found myself staring at the ceiling again. But this time, it wasn't the same thought as before. It wasn't about whether she'd notice if I left. It was something worse. It was wondering how long I could keep both of these worlds from colliding. And deep down, I think I already knew the answer. After that first coffee, it stopped feeling like something I could casually step away from. That's the part people don't always understand. It's not just about attraction or excitement. It's about momentum. Once you build a rhythm with someone, daily texts, inside jokes, shared frustrations, it starts to feel like a second life running parallel to your real one. And for a while, I convinced myself I could manage both. I was wrong. The texting turned into calls. Not long at first, 10 minutes here, 15 there, usually when I was driving or stepping out to grab something or take a quick call from work. Lauren's voice was different than over text. Warmer, more immediate. It pulled me in faster. "Tell me something real," she said once, out of nowhere. I was sitting in my car outside a grocery store, engine running, just staring at nothing. "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means stop giving me the edited version of your life," she said. "Tell me what you actually feel when you're home." I leaned my head back against the seat, exhaling slowly. "You really want to know?" I asked. I wouldn't have asked if I didn't. There was a pause. Not because I didn't have an answer, but because I had too many. "It feels quiet," I said finally, but not in a peaceful way. More like everything important has already been said, and now we're just filling space. She didn't interrupt, didn't try to fix it. "Does she notice?" "I don't think she wants to," I said. "And you?" That question sat heavier. "I don't think I knew how bad it was until recently," I admitted. "Recently," she repeated. I didn't answer that part. I didn't have to. We both knew what recently meant. After that, the conversation started crossing into something more intentional. Not just emotional sharing, but emotional dependence. If something good happened, I wanted to tell her first. If something frustrated me, I vented to her. If she had a bad day, I felt responsible for making it better. And that's where the shift really happened. Because I stopped just talking to her, I started showing up for her, in ways I wasn't showing up at home. Megan noticed more as time went on. "You've been working late a lot," she said one night, standing in the doorway while I was half-dressed, getting ready to leave. "Yeah, we've got a few deals closing," I said, not looking at her. "You said that last week too. It's the same deals." She didn't respond right away. "Do you want me to come by the office sometime, bring you dinner or something?" That caught me off guard. "No," I said too quickly. "You don't need to do that." She studied me for a second. "I'm just trying to spend time with you," she said. "I know," I replied, softer now. "I've just got a lot on my plate right now." There it was again. That excuse. Work. Safe. Unquestionable. Easy to hide behind. She nodded slowly. "Okay." She didn't push. And again, I used that. That night, I wasn't going to the office. I was meeting Lauren. Not for coffee this time. Dinner. We picked a place about 20 minutes outside my usual area, far enough that I wouldn't run into anyone I knew. That detail alone should have told me everything. This wasn't casual anymore. This was intentional. When I walked into the restaurant, she was already there, sitting in a booth, scrolling through her phone. She looked up when I approached, and her face lit up in a way that felt personal. "Hey," she said. "Hey." I slid into the seat across from her, and there was that same moment again, that pause where everything feels charged before anything even happens. "You made it," she said. "Yeah. You look like you almost didn't." I gave a small smile. "Work's been a lot." She tilted her head slightly, studying me. "You can stop saying that," she said. "What?" "That everything is about work." I exhaled, leaning back slightly. "Old habit," I admitted. "Yeah," she said. "I figured." Dinner started normal enough. Food, drinks, conversation flowing easily. But underneath it, there was something building. Something unspoken, but very present. At one point, she reached across the table and touched my hand. Not accidentally, not briefly, intentionally. I felt it immediately. That contact, that connection. And I didn't pull away. That was the moment. Not the texts, not the calls. That. Because once you allow that kind of contact, once you accept it, you're not pretending anymore. "You're thinking too much," she said softly, her fingers still resting against mine. "I do that," I replied. "I know." She didn't move her hand. Neither did I. The rest of the night blurred in that strange, heightened way, where everything feels sharper and softer at the same time. Every look lasts longer. Every word feels loaded. When we walked out of the restaurant, it was cool outside. Quiet. The parking lot mostly empty. We stood near our cars, neither of us in a hurry to leave. "This is the part where you overthink again," she said. I let out a quiet breath. Probably.
You don't have to, she added. I kind of do. Why? I looked at her, really looked at her, and for a second everything felt very clear and very complicated at the same time. Because this isn't simple, I said. No, she agreed, it's not. A pause. Then she stepped closer. Not rushed, not hesitant, just certain. You can walk away right now if you want, she said. It wasn't a challenge, it was an out. A real one, and I knew it. I could have taken a step back, got in my car, gone home, ended it before it became something I couldn't control. Instead, I stayed exactly where I was. I know, I said. She searched my face for a second, like she was making sure. Then she kissed me. It wasn't aggressive, it wasn't rushed. It was slow, intentional, like we both understood exactly what it meant. And I didn't stop it. I didn't hesitate. I kissed her back. That's the moment everything crossed over. No more gray area, no more it's just talking, no more pretending. When we pulled away, there was a shift in the air. Something final, something undeniable. Neither of us spoke right away. We didn't have to.
Text me when you get home, she said quietly. I nodded. I will. I got in my car, closed the door, and just sat there for a second, hands on the steering wheel, heart still racing. I knew exactly what I'd just done. There was no confusion anymore, no room for interpretation. I drove home in silence, no music, no distractions, just my thoughts catching up to me in real time. When I pulled into the driveway, the house looked exactly the same as it always did. Lights on, curtains drawn, nothing out of place. But I felt different walking into it, like I didn't belong in it the same way anymore. Megan was on the couch again, same position, same routine. She looked up when I came in. Hey, she said, how was work? I paused for half a second. Long, I said. She nodded, accepting it like always. Dinner's in the fridge if you're hungry. I ate already, I replied. Oh, okay. She went back to her phone. And that was it. No suspicion, no questions, just trust. The kind of trust I had just broken. I went upstairs, shut the bedroom door, and sat on the edge of the bed staring at my hands. I could still feel it. That moment, that kiss. I pulled out my phone. Her name was already at the top of my messages. I'm home, I typed. 3 dots appeared almost instantly. Me too. A pause. Then, are you okay? I stared at that question. I should have said no, because I wasn't. But instead I typed, yeah. Another pause. Do you regret it? She asked. I looked around the room, at the bed, the dresser, the life I'd built here. And then I thought about the parking lot, the way it felt, the way she looked at me. And I answered honestly, no. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't something I was going to walk away from easily. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a choice. And I had just made it. Once I said I didn't regret it, everything moved faster. There was no more pretending after that. No more careful wording or keeping things in some safe, undefined space. We both knew exactly what this was now, and instead of slowing down, we leaned into it. That next morning, I woke up before Megan again, same as always. The house was quiet, still dark outside. For a second, I just lay there staring at the ceiling, and it hit me. Nothing about my life looked different on the outside. Same bed, same house, same routine. But internally, everything had shifted. I reached for my phone. Lauren had already texted. I keep thinking about last night. I stared at the message, feeling that same pull in my chest. Me too, I replied. 3 dots. Come see me tonight. No hesitation, no soft lead-in, just direct. I sat up slightly, running a hand through my hair. I don't know if I can tonight, I typed. It wasn't even fully true. It was just instinct to slow things down, to create the illusion that I still had control over the pace. Her response came a minute later. Or you don't want to. That question hit differently, because it forced me to be honest with myself in a way I'd been avoiding. I did want to. That was the problem. I want to, I replied. Then figure it out, she sent back. And just like that, the decision was made. Not in some dramatic, emotional way, just practically. I spent the rest of the day half present. Meetings, emails, calls, all of it felt like background noise. My attention kept drifting back to my phone, to her, to what I was planning to do. By the time I got home that evening, Megan was in the kitchen. Hey, she said, smiling slightly. I was thinking we could order in tonight, maybe watch something? There was something hopeful in her tone, that small effort. And for a split second, I felt it, that pull back toward what I should have been doing. Actually, I've got to head back out, I said. Her expression changed just slightly. Again? Yeah. Something came up with a client. I won't be too long. That wasn't even close to believable anymore. And she knew it. I could see it in the way she looked at me. Not confrontational, not angry, just aware. Ryan, she said, quieter now. I paused, hand on my keys. Yeah? She hesitated, like she was deciding whether to say what she was really thinking. Is everything okay? There it was. Not an accusation, an opening, a chance to stop, to tell the truth. Or at least part of it.
I could have said, "No, something's off. We need to talk." I could have stayed. Instead, I looked her in the eye and said, "Yeah, everything's fine." And that was the moment I actively chose to keep lying. She held my gaze for a second longer, like she was searching for something. Then she nodded. Okay, that was it. No fight, no scene. Just that quiet acceptance again. And I walked out the door. The drive to Lauren's place felt different than the night before. Less tension, less hesitation, more expectation. When she opened the door, she didn't say anything right away. Just looked at me, then stepped aside to let me in. Her apartment was exactly how I imagined it would be. Clean, intentional, everything in its place. Warm lighting, soft music playing in the background. "You made it," she said. I said I would. She smiled slightly. "You did." There was no small talk this time. No easing into it. The second the door closed behind me, everything picked up right where it left off in that parking lot. Closer, more familiar. Like we'd already crossed the line, so there was nothing left to hesitate about. And that's exactly how it felt. Like the barrier was gone. Like whatever restraint should have been there had already been broken, so there was no reason to rebuild it. I'm not going to pretend I was conflicted in that moment. I wasn't. I knew exactly what I was doing, and I did it anyway. Hours passed without me really noticing. Time felt irrelevant in that space, like the outside world had been put on hold. At some point, we were sitting on her couch, quieter now, the intensity settling into something more real. "You're different here," she said, resting her head lightly against my shoulder. "How?" "More present," she replied. "Like you're actually here, not somewhere else in your head." I let out a quiet breath. "Maybe because I am." She tilted her head up slightly to look at me. "Then why not just stay where you feel like that?" That question hung in the air, simple on the surface, complicated underneath. "Because it's not that easy," I said. "There's that word again," she replied. "Easy." "It's not about easy. It's about everything else tied to it." "Your marriage," she said. I nodded. She was quiet for a second. "Do you want to fix it?" she asked. That question hit harder than I expected, not because I didn't have an answer, but because I hadn't forced myself to say it out loud yet. I stared ahead, not looking at her. "I don't know if there's anything left to fix," I said. Saying that felt heavier than anything I'd said before, because now it wasn't just frustration or distance. It was final. She didn't respond right away. When I finally looked at her, her expression wasn't surprised. If anything, it was certain. "Then what are you holding on to?" she asked. I didn't have a clean answer for that. Habit, history, fear, guilt, all of it mixed together. "I don't know," I admitted. She nodded slowly, like she already expected that. "You will," she said. I left her place later than I should have, much later. By the time I got home, the house was dark. Megan had gone to bed.
I walked in quietly, like that somehow made it less obvious, like silence could hide what I'd been doing. I went upstairs, changed, got into bed carefully. She stirred slightly beside me. "Ryan?" she murmured, half asleep. "Yeah," I whispered. "What time is it?" "Late. Go back to sleep." She shifted, settling back in. "Okay," she said softly. And that was it. No questions, no confrontation. Just trust. Again. I lay there staring into the darkness, wide awake. And for the first time since this started, I felt it. Not enough to stop, but enough to recognize it. The weight of what I was doing. Because it wasn't just about me anymore. It wasn't just about feeling seen or understood or alive again. It was about the fact that I was building something real with one person while actively lying to another. And both of those things couldn't exist forever without colliding. I knew that. I just didn't know when or how bad it would be when it finally did. But deep down, I think I understood something else too. This wasn't a situation I was stuck in. It was one I was choosing. Every text, every lie, every time I walked out that door. And choices like that don't stay hidden forever. They catch up to you. It's just a matter of when. And when they do, they don't just change your life. They change how people see you. Permanently.